Abhishek, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with this wonderful term digital, because digital in healthcare means everything and anything. What does it mean to you, and where are you seeing the most change at the moment?
Wow, I think if you asked me this pre-COVID, I'd have very specific answers, but this time around, it's everywhere. So while digital means many things to many people, I think between digital health, which is the superset, digital medicine, which has a subset, and then digital therapeutics, which is going straight into trying to deliver outcomes, we've come a long way. So while it traverses a whole lot, I'm seeing more and more attention going back to the first principle of can digital mean improved patient health?
And in terms of your journey and your place in that, we've known each other for a while and been chatting and been following with great interest what you've been doing at Wellthy. Where are you now, and what's been your focus in the last 12 months or so?
So pre-COVID, we were an organization that was working with health systems, payers, pharma, MedTech, direct-to-consumer to improve health outcomes across cardiometabolic largely. And COVID just allowed us to focus and deliver impact in areas that we knew we could deliver impact on. Today, we're an organization that's an evolution of that. We're a platform that enables life science and medtech companies to build, deploy regulatory compliant digital health solutions, digital medicine, digital therapeutics, both as companion and standalone. We've been really fortunate to work in cardiometabolic, women's health, and pulmonology. And it's, I'd say I'll continue to use the word fortunate to drive impact in both in the EU now, in Asia, across rare diseases, and across both medtech and pharma partners. So super exciting times.
Busy year.
Busy year.
And obviously, COVID has been a very difficult thing for many people, but would you say COVID has almost been a bit of a catalyst for your business? Because you need health systems and payer systems to change, and there's been a lot of forced digitization, hasn't there?
Absolutely. I think while COVID has been hard individually and collectively for the world at large, COVID has enabled change in healthcare unlike any force of nature that we've ever seen so far. Whether it's the HCP or it is the health system or it is the payer or it is pharma, everyone has moved from digital being the nice new shiny object to being a critical part of strategy, execution, treatment pathways, which is incredible. I think we've fast-tracked 5 years in the last year and a half, and that's a pessimistic guess, maybe. With pharma, for example, digital was always, well, how are you helping me drive better drug sales? To now, how is digital health a core part of my business model over the next 5 to 10 years? From digital only being looked at as a support to the drug or a pill plus, to digital health, digital medicine, really being a core part of the therapeutic portfolio that pharma is looking at. I think organization buy-in is no longer a question. Now it's much more about how do you get it to HCPs? How do we improve the regulatory clearance? How do we get patients to adopt? How do we get reimbursement pathways? All the right questions, but the foundation was catalyzed with COVID.
And in terms of, you mentioned pharma there, in terms of the big pharma companies and those other commercial organizations, is that a route you're pursuing? Have you got active partnerships there? Do you see yourselves working very closely with those companies?
We see pharma as one of our biggest partners. So today, about 80% of everything we do is with pharma and 20% is with payers. With pharma, it's those pharma companies that have gone beyond digital is something we want to explore to digital is a core part of a strategy. We've gone out and made investments in it. We actually know which therapeutic areas we want to go after, what unmet patient needs we want to do something about. Those are partners that end up being very synergistic with companies like us because we get to go in and not waste so much time in trying to convince stakeholders that digital medicine is an important part of your strategy. It's much more about in this therapeutic area, let's validate this unmet patient need. Let's go after the meaningful aspect of health that the drug is unable to, and neither is the pipeline able to solve for. Let's find those clinical and non-clinical endpoints. Let's go out and build digital therapeutics or digital medicine that can go out and not just solve that unmet patient need, but connect it to business ROI and make a difference in the 5 and 10-year roadmap for that pharma company. And those are incredible conversations to have because you're thinking like partners. You're not thinking as a vendor-supplier relationship, and it's much more long-term, and you're able to generate impact at scale. So a lot of our work today is with pharma. I'm truly blessed to be able to have some exciting partners.
That's great. And it feels to me with conversations I have, like we're starting to see some real structural change in pharma in a sense of, the innovation groups are not the cool kids over there, very separate from the business. It feels like it's starting to be integrated. Is that something that you've seen as well?
With some pharma, yes. So maybe some telling signs. Has that pharma company got a digital strategy? Baseline check. Has that pharma company spent 2 or 3 years in figuring that out? When you're speaking to pharma, are you speaking to the strategy team, in which case there's really nothing? Are you speaking to the chief digital officer, in which case it's just a poster child? But if pharma has evolved beyond that and has a digital health team, has a commercial digital health team, a digital therapeutics team, a digital medicine team, that's when things really start getting interesting, because that innovation team is not out there just as a last mile a frontline individual, but is empowered with a commercial mandate to be able to make a difference. That wasn't as observed beyond, say, the select 10 or 20 pharma before COVID.
Sure.
But we're seeing this now go into at least the mid-tail.
And what about the level of investment? I mean, not just from pharma companies, but VCs. You look at the whole digital health space, it's just gone crazy at the moment, which I guess is great if you're raising, but it also increases competition. So where do you see that having an impact on your business?
Great question. I think it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. Capital is available in abundance. Whether it's a bubble or not, I'm not sure, because the size of the opportunity is just so incredibly large. When you're looking at transforming real world outcomes and making fundamental infrastructural changes to digital health or healthcare in general, this is a part of our economy which has never gone through digital change. You've seen a lot of work happen in fintech, a lot of work happen in retail, every other sector, in logistics. But digital health or healthcare being digitized has been stoically ancient. And I think that there's a lot of pent up sort of energy. And I don't think that the amount of capital is going to die down significantly anytime soon. Yes, we may see a little dip in a correction, but there's a lot of opportunity out there. The challenge is going to be, how do you deliver returns in that time frame? Because it takes time. This is an environment which has deep regulatory working knowledge required. It requires evidence. It requires investment where you're not necessarily seeing capital coming in and then next month numbers moving. That's just not how this works.
Yeah, the investment typically comes with literally a price tag and an expectation, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I guess. And you're at that stage where I know geographically you're expanding, you're building the business out. So, based on your experience and your learnings as a CEO, what's that kind of taught you about what's critical at this stage and how you need to act?
Honestly, it's first principles. So focus, execute, execute, execute. I think COVID just allowed everyone to introspect and have their own reality check of what actually matters to be able to drive value for the end user and the pharma partner and the shareholder. And it just ensured that you're doubling down on things that matter. So for us, that was focus on our therapeutic areas, focus on our capabilities, focus on how we solve the problems on the ground, what we do well and what we don't do well, and everything else is a distraction. And then how do you combine that with alignment within the team, setting the right culture, setting the right frameworks, and just going out and making sure that you're stronger every week, iterating and becoming a better company as a result of that. I think first principles is what COVID highlighted, and it's been really refreshing to go back to the basics.
Sounds very simple, easy to get lost on the way, I'm sure. As you look forward the next year or two, and I'm sure you've got your plans, but what can you share in terms of your aspirations for the company, but also what you want to try and achieve for patients?
We've been really fortunate to start working into more complex conditions than we were earlier. So I see a lot more of our efforts going into unmet needs in even in common chronic conditions, but on the complex end, and rare immuno-onco. So those are areas that we see a lot more effort of ours and hopefully results on the ground to boot. That's one area. And the second is, how do we get more customer obsessed than we've ever been? And this was one part of, let's say, first principles. If pharma is your partner, pharma also tends to pull you in directions which they may think is the right way, but doesn't actually deliver what you need to on the ground. But when you have a product roadmap which is obsessed about the end customer, the end patient experience, the end unmet need, and the end business ROI, and you're striving 6 months, 12 months forward to ensure that that goes into your roadmap, that just allows a snowball effect of being able to get it right faster, quicker, better, and be a true partner for pharma, because you're not just going in and saying, hey, let's solve this problem together. You're also going in and say, here's my wealth of experience of how this problem has been solved in the past. This is how we should be doing it. And the ability to sit back and have a different perspective so that you're able to achieve the right results on the ground, right? So that customer obsession that we began more of through the pandemic, it's been phenomenal. We have hundreds of hours a month now dedicatedly going into having conversations with our patients who are using our platform, HCPs who are prescribing our platform, pharma partners who are deploying our platform, marketing representatives, MSLs who are out there trying to convince stakeholders, market access teams who are having conversations with payers, and that it's addictive, because that insights engine is just, you can't get enough of it. And COVID taught me how there is no limit. And the more we do, the better we'll be.
Yeah, and I love that term, customer obsession. It sort of makes me think of the kind of Steve Jobs and Apple mentality of it's got to be right, which is really critical, as you say. Now, we're chatting at the Frontiers Health event in Milan, actually physically here, not on a Zoom screen. So I'm interested to get your thoughts about the event and what it's like being back in person at a real venue.
It's refreshing. It's just what the doctor ordered. I came in, it's been shockingly far back enough that I came in with no expectations, and it blew my mind. It's so amazing to come back and start meeting people in person, to be able to feel the energy that comes with everyone in the same room for the same purpose, interacting with known faces, meeting new people, and having that in-person connect, which you sorely miss. Frontiers was always phenomenal. I was fortunate to be part of it 2 years ago in FH19, and it's better than ever. So it's above expectations, but phenomenal to be back.
Fantastic. And a couple of things just to finish on, questions I always like to ask entrepreneurs. So first of all, in terms of inspiration, is there anybody or anything that sort of continues to inspire you in the work that you do?
I want to say the customer. I've never stopped learning new things from our pharma partners, our HCPs, our patients. They're the one, and the unmet needs of the user, right? They're the ones that get us up in the morning, that get us inspired to go back to work every day to solve that problem. And every time, well, it's no longer every time because now there are too many of it, but we try really hard to ensure that customer success stories are shared within our organization because that's what we're in it for. So that continues to inspire me. The entrepreneurs around who are solving incredible problems in healthcare continues to inspire me. But in general, a collective of this entire industry now moving towards digital being a core part of the standard of care, that's the one that blows my mind. And the potential is limitless.
And I know we've talked about some of your learnings along the journey, but I guess just to finish, if you could go back to yourself at the start of this journey and maybe give yourself one piece of advice and say, hey, Abhishek, don't forget about this, what would it be?
Oh, customer obsession. I'd say that I had a different definition of it when I started the company, and a very different definition of it now. And the resources, the infrastructure that we put on it now, it would stagger the mind. But it is the one that allows us to make better decisions. It allows us to ensure that our compass is always pointing in the right direction. And it aligns everyone within the organization, both internal and external, because there is no truth than what the customer needs. And if you're able to take that learning that digital non-healthcare companies or consumer companies went out and iterated on to find not just product market fit, but long-term love and affection, and went out to create incredible brands, that learning is something that digital health sorely needs. Just because the individual is suffering from a condition doesn't mean that the individual needs to be labeled the patient and is no longer a customer. So going back to that basic is definitely something I would have told my younger version of myself, that, you know what, there is no limit. This is where you spend most of your time. Everything else will figure itself out.
That's a great message. Abhishek, it's always good to catch up with you, and I wish you continued success. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to being back really soon.